one song in the house. Los Angeles in the house. Baby, baby, come on. Start one song. Start one song. We got Luxury in the house. We got Durand in the house. And we got Mariah Carey and the old dirty doggy in the house. And we'll see how this goes. This is one song.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll. I'm soul to soul.
Yes. Listen, he started immediately on the one. I was like, no, we're going to start on the two. I mean, he couldn't help himself. It was innate. Bless his heart. We're going to work on it.
You know, we practiced on this for weeks, and I think it shows.
Weeks.
Now that we've established that everyone is in the house, it's time on one song to talk about a pop masterpiece, a collision of two worlds. You have the pop princess of the 90s. You know, we already know who this person is. But then we put her with Staten Island's grimiest MC, one of the first stars out of the Wu-Tang Clan. And we've got a song powered by, you know, one of the greatest hooks in, you know, history. It's like a song that, like, if you were a certain age, you heard it on the radio, you've seen it on the TV show. I'm going to stop using hip-hop references, and I'm going to talk about this song. The song is called Fantasy, the Bad Boy remix, featuring Mariah Carey and Old Dirty Bastard. This is Fantasy, and this is one song.
The shining star, you're my shining star, girl. Yo, New York in the house, it's Brooklyn in the house, up New York in the house,
it's room vibe. Here we go.
That's right. Uptown in the house, Charlotte, are you in the house? Baby, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on.
When you walk by every night, talking sweet and looking fine, I get kinda hectic inside. Baby, I'm so into you, darling. If you only knew all the things that flow through my mind, but it's just a.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the way her voice comes in, it always reminds me of being a DJ, because as a DJ, when that vocal comes in, like Old Dirty always got the party hype, but when her vocal came in all pristine and perfect, like it just sounded different coming out of those speakers. It always got the party hype. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Luxury, tell us what we're talking about.
Well, first of all, Durand, welcome to the show, my friend. And it's nice to see you. I'm glad to have you in particular as a guest for this episode. I think it's a perfect match. And I actually got a quick question. You were just humming the intro right there. How many voices, have you ever counted how many different voices and characters and registers and ranges? Mariah's going a lot of places on this song. Like, what, from the singer's perspective, since you are yourself an incredible singer, when you hear it, does it sound complicated? What does it sound like to you? What are your feelings as a fellow singer when you hear this song? That's a big question, I know.
Yes. First of all, it's good to be seen and not viewed. Right now.
It might be a little bit of both. Just so you
know,
know.
right.
There might be some stuff on Instagram.
That part. Listening now as an adult, Mariah is the female Luther with a whistle register.
Wow.
Like, when you
That's
really
amazing.
listen to their choices and how they approach things, it feels but it's a lighter texture. You know, his was velvety, hers is lighter, and so that gives a different contrast to it. Now I've always appreciated her voice.
And you're talking about Luther Vandross, obviously, like.
There's really only one Luther. We're not
Only one Luther.
That's the Luther.
We're not talking about the Netflix series.
LOOTHA, Luther.
Yep.
I like what you're saying, because there are few people. Some people have gratuitous runs. We don't need to name.
Come on,
names.
gratuitous.
Gratuitous runs. But name of a great album, by the way. But she doesn't. Like, she really feels like she's like feeling everything, and I can see. I never thought of it before. I can see the connection to Luther. That's deep.
She has also said that she sings her songs the way that she does because she didn't want anyone else to sing them.
Oh, yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah. I've worked with, I will say, as a comedy writer, I've worked with some singers, and it's amazing to me how the degree to which, whether they say it or not, they are trying to make every song their own. They're like, I don't want anybody else to be able to sing this. I feel like it goes back to Stevie. I feel like it's hard to cover Stevie.
Durand, as our guest, what is it about this song that means so much to you? And do you have any sort of stories like the first time you heard it? Like, is there a connection you feel to fantasy?
Because, okay, growing up, my mother didn't play a lot of, secular music, so it was a lot of jazz and gospel and whatnot, and a little bit of new age in there, that Enya, that you play in yoga class, we could listen to that. But there were some artists that I was able to sneak into the house, like Janet Jackson was contraband. Waiting to Exhale, that was contraband. But Mariah would get played on the jazz station, so Mariah was actually cool. So I could listen to Mariah and Whitney and Michael Jackson, so.
I feel like Visions of Love was like a big song for Mariah, like early on. Like,
see, mine was Can't Let Go. I can't speak for Visions of Love. I mean, that's a great song, but no, Can't Let Go. Oh, baby. And when you, I need AI to do a Luther, whatchamacallit, swap on that song so we can hear what it would sound like.
Luther were singing.
Him singing singing Can't Let Go. You'll be like, that's where it is.
I mean, right now, that's the sound of everybody who's listening to this doing exactly that.
The Luther-Mariah connection is so interesting to me because I heard her somewhere talking about how like Luther actually, I think she got some singing tips either directly or indirectly from his idea that like you should always only ever be in humid environments for your voice, like literally voice-saving tips. But is there more to that connection? Like tell us more from a singing standpoint. I'm so interested in the connection that you're making a few times now between Luther Vandross and Mariah Carey.
Yeah, they actually have a song together as well, but it just clicked. Like it's interesting how these vocal titans can also influence each other and get tips from how to care for your voice, how to placement,
like note placement. Like
oh yes, that's so key. I feel like note placement is more effective than the run.
That's like where to place the note in time, like where to syncopate, how long to elongate it. There's so many details about singing that like I want to learn from you because it's like I'm a musician producer, but it is my weakness. Is like I can do my thing and that's it. But I've heard from your amazing music, and Mariah, as we were talking about earlier, with her multiple vocal range and the whistle, all of this, we'll get into it. But did you kind of over time have you kind of like gradually conquered maybe each area of singing separately, or did it come naturally to you? Did you have a teacher? Like how did you learn to sing? Is my question.
So I feel like singing learned me. I didn't get a chance to take music serious first. It was there, because both of my parents are musicians, and they both sing as well. And also my cousins, they're musically inclined, to they're singing in choir or chorus or taking some kind of drama class, so there's all these ways in which we express ourselves through music. So it wasn't until I went on the road with my dad with Earth, Wind & Fire when I was 16, and I was able to see like how.
And you were young, right? When this happened,
16.
you were 16.
Yeah,
and you're out there with Verdine and the guy.
Yes. I look good. Yeah, I smell good. How you doing? Yeah, you're right. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, that is an amazing impression.
And I never got a chance.
I used to work with Cabron White.
Yeah.
So I used to see those guys sometimes, and yeah, that's an amazing impression.
Yes, no, I love him. Love him.
Diallo, please set the scene for us, if you will. This song is released. It's 1995. Where are you? Where is Diallo Riddle in 1995? And what do you think of Mariah at the time?
I'm glad you bring it up. I was in I was in college, and that's like a time when you're in college, like nobody can tell you anything about music. If you like music, you feel like you know just enough of what happened in the past, but you're like right in the zeitgeist. You know exactly what's going on in the culture. And
you got your identity too.
You got your identity.
Tribal
and
identity.
I was firmly implanted in hip hop by this point. Growing up, I would like, Michael Jackson and the Pet Shop Boys. But like at this time, like I was 100% in hip hop. And 1995, like Mariah is cool. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, my wife is like, she's of the perfect age where like Mariah is like her Michael Jackson, Madonna, just given the age. And so like she likes some of those Mariah Carey songs, and I'm like, ugh. Like, because to me that's not what I was trying to hear. Like I was about Mary, I was about Faith, I was about like there were R&B queens at that time that like you just were impeachable. And I think the most interesting thing about this song that we're talking about today is that when it came out, it was like, wait a second, she's got a song with Old Dirty Bastard? Like, it was, I always say Mary and Meth with You're All I Need that was like one of the first ones. It won a Grammy. Like, it was like, oh, this. When SWV did the remix of Anything with Wu-Tang, like, we were like, yo, anything is possible now.
This is the crossover moment between
This is
R&B,
like when it was like, wait, even
hip-hop.
Mariah is, and apparently her husband at the time, Tommy Mottola, runs the record label, and he's not happy about this. He's like, you're throwing away all of the pop princess, branding, if you will.
He's scared.
He's like, there's no way this could work.
Yeah.
But it was Mariah's idea. She was like, I want to do a song with Old Dirty Bastard. In her words, he reminds me of the uncle who's drunk at the barbecue.
I love that. Oh, Drunk Uncle returns to the show.
We always bring up these drunk uncles.
Ooh, yes.
And so she was like, I really wanted to be him. So it's interesting also let's get really granular on this. This is a time when, according to Nas, Wu-Tang and Bad Boy have beef because Wu-Tang feel like they represent where East Coast hip-hop and New York hip-hop is, and they feel like Puffy is ruining it with, all the Versace shades and talking about the
that
clothes
connection,
and
I
all
was
this
curious
stuff.
about that. I was hoping you'd explain that to me.
Wu-Tang, Staten Island, grimy, and here comes, Puffy, by 1995, is a seminal year. We talked about this on the show before. It's a very important year in terms of hip hop. It's the year that the One More Chance remix by Biggie samples DeBarge, and suddenly black radio stations that never played hip hop before, they were always R&B in the day, and they might play hip hop at night. All of a sudden during the daytime, they're playing Baby One More Chance. It changes overnight.
That's a sound that wouldn't normally have been
that Junior
on there.
Mafia album came out. Like everything is changing like really rapidly, during this time. And so 1995, Mariah does a song with Old Dirty Bastard. And we're going to get into the shenanigans that take place in both the recording and the music video. But this was big. This was big because it showed how much, not just R&B, but now pop is now going to basically be singing over hip hop.
Yeah.
In ways that it hadn't been before. Now, Mariah herself picked this sample, Genius of Love by Tom Tom Club, and let's hear a little bit of it.
Love this song.
Here's what Mariah said about her use of that sample. I was listening to the radio and heard Genius of Love, and I hadn't heard it in a long time. It reminded me of growing up and listening to the radio, and that feeling the song gave me seemed to go with the melody and basic idea that I had for fantasy. I initially told Dave about the idea, and we did it. We called up the Tom Tom Club, because, they were, listed. And they were really into it. By the way, the Dave that she's referring to is her producer, Dave Hall, who worked on records with a lot of artists, including Mary J. Blige and Madonna. And here is how that Tom Tom Club sample sounds in the song.
Sorry. I just laugh sometimes because there's so much going on there vocally. There's like 50 different ideas, but it works somehow. Like there's and then there's like maybe literally 3 different lines happening at once in a different way. It just made me laugh in that.
It's very church. When you have like the la 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 la.
The counterpoint.
It's all the different things. The top notes is doing something different from the main note, and then they kind of come together at the end to kind of add this lush kind of cascade of different. Yes.
But it reminds me of the Stevie Wonder, what we talked about with the clavinets, because like we did an episode about Stevie Wonder Superstition, and when you isolate the clavinets, there's like 4 different ideas on 8 different tracks, and they're all doing different things, but they're finding different syncopated pockets and different notes. And that's why it works in the mix. And there's kind of an interesting parallel here, too, because each of those singers is singing a different note with a different rhythm. different lyric. Anyway, it's and in the mix it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just
That's
love the idea of Mariah Carey being in a car listening to the radio, hearing a song she likes. She's like, "Oh, that's cool. Let's call it the Tom Tom Club."
Okay, right.
That's called access.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now we do have a lawyer in the house, Leslie Guam, and she was keen to note that Mariah has a songwriting credit on this song. Does Mariah get the props she deserves as a songwriter? I'm asking both of you.
I'd like to hear your opinion.
So she's been writing for a nice little while now. Some of the lyrics might tickle me.
Right.
Those-
What's a lyric that tickles you?
Those chickens is ash and I'm lotion. Why you in my George Foreman?
Oh, that's good. I had to think about that one. I had to think about that. It's good.
Like, she mentioned something where she was saying Cheetos. I was just like,
So the answer is no. She's not getting the props she deserves as a songwriter. I mean,
well,
like,
it depends on what she's writing. Though.
Yeah, we don't know.
It depends on what she's writing. Because, like I said, I'm just mentioning things that tickle me. But she's written she's had great songs.
No, I mean, yeah, and I think one thing that's very clear is that "Fantasy" by Mariah Carey, like, there are two popular versions of this song, and until we just played that other one, I had totally forgotten that there was one other than the Old Dirty, because I only really messed around with.
Well, we got to
the
talk
Old
about
Dirty
the
Bastard.
backstory of how we even came to this episode, because we were talking about Mariah and trying
Yeah.
to choose what Mariah song should we do, and Fantasy came up pretty quickly for me
Yeah.
because I love this song. I love the backstory, which I'm about to go into with all the samples and interpolations. Like, that's my jam. Like, I can live for that. We're about to go down a really fun rabbit hole about that. But when we were talking about it, like, I'm raising my hand. Like, first to admit, I did not know of the existence of the remix.
That's crazy
I
to
had
me.
never heard it. And Diallo,
Because we're
it's not that he had never heard the original, but it's like we absolutely had two different worlds we were
but maybe I
coming
had
from.
roundly avoided it.
Wow.
But no, wait, that's one thing I love about 90s hip hop is that there was always a remix. And a lot of the times the remix was a completely different song. Like
a completely different record with new vocals.
Yep.
new vocals. Oh, by the way, I want to talk about my favorite Old Dirty Bastard song of all time. It is the radio edit of Brooklyn Zoo. Because as opposed to nowadays when like you just drop out the curse words, and even my kids are like, man, they're cursing a lot, because this is essentially like, whole verses go away and stuff like that. In the early to probably mid 90s, there was a lot of just re-recording clean lyrics.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
one of the first where I really noticed that, sometimes the clean version is better is Deep Cover, because Snoop on the dirty version is like, I got a gauge, an Uzi, and my motherfucking 22. But on the edit, he's like, I got a gauge, an Uzi, and my nickel-plated 22. And I was, as a writer, I was like, ooh, nickel-plated 22? Like, it was more, there was more imagery that was forming in my brain.
Yeah.
There's an improvement.
But Old Dirty Bastard takes the cake. He takes the cake when it comes to coming up with completely different lyrics. I'm going to play you a snippet. And really, if you get a second, just go on YouTube or wherever you can find Brooklyn Zoo clean edit. The whole song is like this. If you play the dirty version first and then the clean version, it's a completely different song. Some of the best ad-libs in history. I'm just going to play a snippet. Here it goes.
Who couldn't figure, yo, but a new? Who couldn't figure, yo, but a new? Who couldn't figure how to pull a gun trigger? Get out of here!
That is a sampling. There are so many sound effects. There are so many places where he just changes the lyrics. Like that one part, I think he says like, without a fucking gun trigger, you crazy. Instead of that, he goes, without pulling a gun trigger, get out of here. Like he screams, get out of here. And I just feel like that's some stuff that you would never come up with.
A better choice, frankly.
It's a better song.
It was Wile E. Coyote building in the song. Like, he brought Looney Tunes.
He brought the Acme.
He
brought the Acme box.
Yes.
Now, Luxury, you're going to take us on how we go from Tom Tom Club to Fantasy. to Lotto. You're gonna take us through the whole.
You just know I'm gonna have a great time with this, and everyone,
Yes.
you're all gonna have a great time with this. Interpolation, sampling rabbit hole. It all begins. It's 1981, and one of my favorite parts about this journey is, especially at the top half of it, there's a lot of. We're going to talk in a later episode about the history of remixes and about
whole nother
Jamaica,
episode.
which I'm so excited for because I'm a big Jamaica and dub buff. But there's a lot of Jamaica in the original song, in the original sample. So really quickly, the Tom Tom Club, for those who don't know, this is half of the band Talking Heads. It's the husband and wife team of Tina Weymouth on bass and Chris Franz on drums. And they're on a break. They go down to Bahamas, Compass Studios. And the first Jamaican connection here is that Compass Point is owned by Chris Blackwell of Island Records. In other words, the guy who made Bob Marley famous. So right out the gate, we've got Sly and Robbie are in the next room. Speaking of reggae, they are in the middle of 1981 of a new era of reggae that they kind of pioneer. And Stephen Stanley is their producer, a Jamaican man who's also a co-writer of the song. So they're steeped in what is at the time kind of a new sound of dub and sort of extended remixes. So on day one, they're thinking Jamaica, they're thinking sampling, they're thinking remixes. Interestingly, baked into this song already when it's made is this idea of like reusing and repurposing other songs and other material. That's the core of Jamaica. Again, deep dive, big time deep dive in another episode.
If I could just jump in
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick, there's one other part that I think is worth mentioning, which is that, you know, if you think about the first bebop song, you know, like, or one of the first by Charlie Parker, is a song called Coco, where he admits, like, you know, that is my interpolation, if you will, of Cherokee by Ray Noble, which had come out like 20 years earlier. So I think that in a lot of these, you know, American and African American and Jamaican American music forms, there is this tradition of like taking something from about 20 or 30 years back and then just, you know, revving it up and making it more modern. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this particular song is that it just keeps coming back, you know, every, you know, other generation. Almost.
Yeah, we're about to hear that same snippet, which you've already heard a lot on the show, a lot more times. It is one of the most sampled licks of all time, that 2 bars of drums and bass that we keep hearing throughout this episode. So getting back to Tom Tom Club, Genius of Love, in part inspired by a song called More Bounce to the Ounce by Zapp, which I'll play a little snippet for you right now. In particular, the beat and the very slowed down funk beat and the big, delicious clap, one of my favorite claps. Oh my God, I could listen to Troutman, Roger
Black people
Troutman.
just be inspiring everything.
I know, because all I can think, all I hear is
That is
Daft Punk
accurate.
now when I hear, you know, those
The talk
those-
box, the Roger
Yeah,
Troutman.
man. I mean, like, I can just imagine those 2 French guys being like, "That's the sound." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that stuff is wonderful.
It is deep. It is wonderful. And they love that beat. So they tried to do something with a similar beat, 103 BPM, slowed down. And to get that clap, talking about Jamaica, I mentioned before when they recorded it, Sly and Robbie were in the next room. And they actually get a shout out on the song. This is that song where they mentioned Bohannon, and James Brown. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you about with this song is this is an example. They have like 50 different voice ideas in the song Genius of Love, which is why another connection to me with Mariah is like all of these different ways of presenting vocal material, like all the different ways to do it is so interesting. So I want to get your opinion about that before we move on. Like, is this a song that means as much to you as it did to Mariah, maybe? Are you a fan of Genius of Love? Let me ask you
I
that
do
way.
like the song.
Yeah.
I love it. And it wasn't until I started DJing, I was just like, no, I need to add this in there because I
fails.
might be more prone to play the original
Yeah.
than just to remind people where these songs
It all came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But then you can always go into one of the other songs. right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love it. One of my favorite parts is, what you gonna do when you get out of jail? I'm gonna have some fun. Like
Everybody
I
loves that
just
line.
love just the different conversations.
Where's that conversation taking place,
Yeah,
by the way?
I mean, just like in Meeting in the Ladies' Room by Climax, you know, at the beginning of the song, she's talking about, I need to get myself together. Where's my jewelry? Can we talk?
I need to
You know?
powder my nose.
You know, right. And I know what that means. I done seen the Studio 54 documentary.
So Sly and Robbie are in the next studio. Tom Tom Club, Chris and Tina are like, come on in here, contribute to the song. We just gave you a shout out. We love your music. So they come in there and they record 3 layers of claps. So the claps you hear on this song they went through the whole 7-minute long version in just 21 minutes of clapping.
There's no clap looping?
It's 21 minutes of Sly and Robbie on claps in the mix in there.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really amazing. So as I mentioned, this is one of the most sampled songs of all time. It's in the canon as a song itself and as a reuse use. So it's been sampled, it's been interpolated. One of the more famous ones, one of the earliest ones, this is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And it's actually not a sample, it's an interpolation. It's nasty. They're trying to get to some rapping.
We wanna rock you with the kings of swing.
There you go.
Sit to rule. The themes of clean.
1982.
We're the chiefs of relief.
This is how we rap.
Okay.
And I don't give a crap.
The bars of cars, the lord of the fort.
You know, I would have loved to be that guy who's auditioning to be a rapper from like to like famous rappers back then. Like
Yeah.
you come here like, I got those skills. They're really good. They're like, no, you're doing it wrong. I don't know. There's something wrong about it. It's not just me, right? It's not just me.
Not just you.
I want to see those people audition
Yeah.
Oh God.
because they all have the same voice.
Yeah. Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't include this one sample out of many, Return of the Mac. And it's just the beat.
Oh, I was about to say, okay.
Really?
That's Sly and Robbie on those claps, right? Now we know. That's a distinctive clap.
Come on. Yes, you did. Oh my God.
It's like he's like a more
Mark
vocally
Morrison.
he's more of a more vocally interesting version of Keith Sweat, because you know, because Keith Sweat being all about it, you got it, but he's
But one of my favorite things about Return of the Mac, and longtime listeners of the show know this, is that it is Chucky Booker's
I was
game.
gonna say why
Like,
you wanna play games?
why you want to play?
Why you wanna play?
And then he hits that one note.
Why you wanna play?
Why you want to play?
Shout out to Chucky Booker.
Chucky Booker, man, like that.
I gotta do a
Games.
wellness check on him. I just randomly did a wellness check on Jason James Richter and LeChat.
Uh-oh.
They're all doing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
We was worried.
Where is this like a service that you? Is it like
It's just
GoFundMe?
randomly,
You
I
can
was
say,
just
"I'm
randomly thinking about what
funding."
happened to that little boy that was on Free Willy. Let me just see. His last post was a week ago. All right. Then I checked on the chat, you know, but you need some gum. Breath like some thunder. You know, just how are these people doing? You know?
I might do one of those on a Big Tuck. I'm like, where
Yeah,
Big Tuck?
just do a random wellness check and go on Twitter and be like, y'all, I was thinking about such and such, and they all right.
All right, so that's Genius of Love, that's Tom Tom Club, that's the origin. We have samples, we got interpolations all over the place, but it is also the bedrock of Mariah Carey's Fantasy, which is the bedrock itself of the song ostensibly we're talking about today, which is the remix. So layers are layering in real time, right in front of our very eyes. Let's get into Mariah Carey's Fantasy. This is from 1995. We talked a little bit about producer, co-writer Dave Jam Hall. As I was doing my research, I learned a fact that I did not know. Besides having produced Mary J. Blige's What's 411, do you know who producer Dave Jam Hall was married to at the time this record was made?
Nope. Tell us.
Ms. Wanda Sykes.
What?
I did not know this. I did not know
know.
this. True fact.
I didn't know that.
True fact. So
Maybe Wanda didn't know that. I don't know.
Okay, no,
Wanda
for
may have
real.
been in the studio the day the song was recorded. For all I know, we do not know.
But he did What's the 411 for Mary?
He did Mary's 411. What's the 411?
He had a hot hand because I'll tell you, man, these are huge records. These are huge records.
Yeah. The bedrock of Fantasy is a 2-bar loop of Genius of Love. And on top of it, there's some light synths sprinkled. I'm going to play you a little moment. Here's just from the instrumental backing track. In the mix, you may not even notice this because it's very, very minor, but it does add a little bit of juice. So here is the Fantasy instrumental and some of the additional sauce. This is really cool. I had never noticed this before.
I love it.
Right? I'd never noticed that little kind of, it's almost like a rose or something like that, but it's really buried. And it almost sounds like a vocoder.
Oh yeah, because she up in there.
Yeah.
You don't hear all that, so you know. But no, that's real pretty.
It's really pretty. Yeah, it's really basic. And it kind of mirrors sweet, sweet fancy. Any conversation about Mariah, and especially this song, would be, I'd be remiss to not mention something that only Mariah can do, and that's this. That's called the whistle tone. Oh my God, can you do the whistle? What is it? And how
Only
do you
Mariah
do
could
it?
do. We gonna forget about Betty and Minnie.
Well, I was going to get into Minnie in a second. I mean modern day. Let me reset. You're absolutely right. It's not the only one, but she is certainly known for it in the modern era.
Oh yeah, the way she colored her whistle and
Yeah.
the approach. Yeah, she started that.
As a singer, when you hear that, what does it mean to you? As it like, is this something that you've ever tried to do or used? Is it achievable by mortals? What's the story with the whistle?
I look at it as this tiny hole in your throat that you can push air out of, and if you can get sound out of it, then, and also men are, because we can get lower.
Right.
If we can access a whistle, we can always have a broader range than that. So
Is it true? I'm gonna be the dumb layman here. Is it true that women don't have a real falsetto?
so men have falsettos, women have head voices.
Okay,
It's just a term.
it's just a term.
Yeah.
But they're both technically the head voice. Is that right?
So yes, it's just that when we're doing our false, it's a false note because that's not our natural. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I always had a pretty good falsetto.
Yeah.
That was my sweet spot.
Yeah.
That was my sweet spot.
I've heard your falsetto. I love your falsetto.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We'll have to ask you later.
What's that?
I said I want to hear it later.
Okay, yeah.
Once you got some rest, you know.
Yeah, because that whistle tone, from what I understand, it's like humans aren't really sure how it's produced because you can't actually get a camera, from what I understand, like in the epiglottis. It's like it's very, from a medical standpoint, it's beyond what I could understand. But like there's a little mystery to how it is actually produced. It's one of those things that you just kind of feel and aim and practice until you get, I suppose.
That's literally how it was for me because I found out that I had a whistle by laughing.
What? How
Like
did
it would
that
just be
happen?
this screech. Like
Oh, there it
like
is.
all of that is range. That's range. It's just, and it's a note, you know what I'm saying? So
But
it's
you
just
find by accident.
yeah.
Yeah, it just happened. You're like, oh, I got
And
the
then
Mariah.
literally a friend was like, you should try that next time you record a song. Like try to access that.
Right.
And so you just spend time with it and then you learn how to access it sometime.
Well, because
Except for, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Except for when Layla Hathaway tried to teach me the 2-note thing. I thought I was going to hurt myself.
Oh, is that singing 2 notes at once?
Yes.
A chord?
Anytime that
Like
I
the
do.
Tuval in
Because matter
throat
of fact,
singers?
no, wait. I did hit 2 notes when I did during Sam's Vibe on Tiny Desk, but that wasn't on purpose.
Oh, wow.
That was not on purpose. I just knew that it was there. I just knew the whistle was there, but how it was gonna come out.
Okay.
You know, this thing pays a mortgage. You know, like I just so
You have one of the
Durand
best
doing it on-
voices out there, period. It's amazing what you're able to do. And by the way, as a comedy writer, I'll say you do it in very funny ways. Like your sense of humor is still there. I always respect Fonte Coleman is somebody who I have a great deal of
Fonte.
respect for because he reached out to us on comedy. And it was, and we already knew Little Brother, but then it was like, oh man, you know what? Now we think about it, all them Little Brother albums are hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that comedy and music often go together.
Mm-hmm.
And since you mentioned her, I'd be remiss if in the conversation about Mariah Carey and the whistle, if I didn't play a little bit of Minnie Riperton for you. This is maybe the most famous whistle prior to Mariah, and this is Lovin' You from 1975.
Oh.
So great.
Shanice and Shantae Moore covering this song is amazing. Especially when Shantae does it, because then she goes higher. She be just she was up there chirping,
Oh my God.
talking to the clouds.
It's a magical sound. It's like a Disney movie or something. Of course, a lot of people know this, but if you didn't, that's Maya Rudolph's mom
Oh yes,
singing.
yes,
Shout out
that's
to
Maya
Maya.
Rudolph.
And
Absolutely.
I only found this out when I was researching, but at the very end of the song, Listen to what she sings.
Yep.
Sing Maya, Maya, Maya.
How did I miss that?
How did I miss that? We all missed that.
No,
Maya,
I didn't miss that.
baby
But
Maya.
I've worked with Maya Rudolph on
I
a
mean,
couple
listen,
occasions,
he got the
and
cassette.
they talk about
he
it
got
a
the
lot.
cassette tape of that.
Maya Rudolph was in the room, young baby Maya, and that's
She
what
sure
she's
was.
singing.
I love that.
Little sweet
Aw.
moment there. All right, so that's Mariah, that's Fantasy, that's the original version. But we came here today to talk about the remix. And the Bad Boy remix featuring ODB was done by Puff along with his fellow Bad Boy Hitman member, Nasheem Myrick. So Diallo, break it down for me. What did this remix mean to hip hop? How did it change things?
I mean, again, I feel like I was immersed in the scene, both as like a DJ and an active listener. I was buying all the mixtapes, and I do think that this was one of the times where we realized hip hop wasn't just taking over R&B; it was taking over pop. And I feel like for the next 10 to 15 years, almost all hip hop, almost all pop and definitely R&B. It was so heavily hip hop influenced that it was hard to figure out where hip hop ended and where R&B began or where pop began. You know what I mean? Like, so I remember especially like when everybody really started singing, like, like when Drake started like to really do his thing, like by 2009, it was like, man, is it hip hop if they don't rap one verse? If it's just all singing, like,
Right.
is
Does
that
it even
still-
count as hip hop?
Yeah, I mean, like the first time I noticed, like people were calling, like some of the greats. I'm talking about Lauryn Hill, Miseducation. Like there's some songs on there where she doesn't really, rhyme a verse, like she sings, the entire song. So I feel like we'd already been heading in that direction, but definitely for the next 10 or 15 years, like that's all that we were until pop sort of became kind of where it currently lives. Which I always say, like right now, most pop singers like the Dua Lipas, they're singing over what is essentially EDM music.
Right,
they're singing over like, if you took their vocals off and you
It's a
put
dance track.
few more techno flares
Yeah.
in there, it would be a straight up dance track. But for quite some time, at least from '95 until 2010, you could make the argument that hip hop was, for the lack of a better term, pop. Hip hop had all the biggest artists.
Right.
From Ludacris to T.I., Missy Elliott. We were definitely driving that culture for a long time. And I do feel like, as many people have noticed, that has changed. Like now, a lot of what is hip hop, with the exception of, ironically, of the women, I think that, if you were to ask who are the big male hip hop stars, like they're not the household names the way that they were. Now it's mainly about, the Cardis, the Megans, Saweetie, Ice Spice, but there was a time when, hip hop was running things. And I feel like this was a point where hip hop and pop really merged in a way that now it almost seemed passe. Like, no heads would turn if, I mean, Dua Lipa literally did a song with Da Baby. So, I mean, like, and nobody cared, they judged it on the merits of the song. But like the time when like you could take a pop princess and put it with a hip hop person, that seems very passe. I got to ask you real quick, what's your favorite remix of all time?
Oh, it's between me and Sianka's New Phone Who Dis,
Uh-oh.
or me and Ari Lennox's remix to FaceTime. I always got to plug myself
No,
in.
I love it. I love it. This is something I know about you.
But if we're talking about a remix that, like, Ain't It Funny is a good one. That they say,
Funny.
sample Craig Mack.
With everybody's favorite rapper.
Also, the Bootylicious the Walk Wild Bootylicious remix. Oh, and the Teddy Riley remix to Bumps. That's MC Hammer Lord.
That's MC Hammer.
All I want to do is zoom a zoom zoom. Yeah,
The remix
the
to
remix
Rump Shaker?
to doom doom doom.
Oh! Wow, wait.
Yes.
I think we had to play a little bit of that.
Oh!
But you know what? Hold
Fat
that. Hold
Man
that.
Scoop, Love Like This by Faith. Hello.
Okay, that song.
You got $100 bill. Put your hands up.
Okay. We got to, you know what? We should talk about that song. I will say, let me just pull it up, because that's not the name of it. It's not called that. It's called, it's Fat Man Scoop. Is it Love Like This?
Yeah, love like this. Never had someone to show me love like this before. What's your zodiac sign?
Be Faithful is the name of the song. I'm gonna pull the DJ card and say, I knew it. It's called Be Faithful.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes,
and
it is.
that song.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I did not know that.
When
I
that
got it
song
labeled
came
wrong.
out, this is a DJ story real quick. When that song came out, let me tell you, it drove me nuts because I would say from the time it came out, probably like 2002, somewhere in there, until like honestly, like 2010, I had to hear that song 5 times a week. It was unavoidable. When I was writing an early script, I actually had my character go to 5 different clubs on one night, and every single club he went into was playing that song. It was like, what's your zodiac sign?
You know that's from Save the Last Dance. That's why it really popped off.
Is that what really did
Yes.
it? It's just like how the Joe Budden song was in one movie.
Fire.
Pump it up. Dun, dun, dun. I think it's the first step into the streets.
Right. Oh, I know that. But his song Fire was in Mean Girls.
Fire is in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. There were certain movie usages that made these songs ubiquitous. But I will say, God, you're right. It's an absolutely fantastic, use of Faith and about 2 other songs. It's got the Engine number 9 on the New York Transit line. If my train falls off the track, pick it up, bass drum. Who's fucking tonight? It had all that stuff. We have gotten off topic, but we're talking about big club hits. And one big club hit was, of course, the Fantasy remix featuring ODB. After the break, we'll be back with more on this song, and we will talk about her collaborator on this song. I'm talking about Ason Unique, Dirtiest Man Alive, Dirt McGirt, DJ Cooley Hot, Joe Bananas, The Specialist, Dirt Dog,
Man, it's awesome
Osiris, Dirty McDurster, Big Baby Jesus himself, the old dirty doggy. I had to say it like that because that's how he says it on this song,
Okay.
presumably for radio. He's just, to his friends, old dirty bastard, and we're going to talk about that
Russell.
after the break. Well, he's Russell Jones to his mom, but to us, he's ODB, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to One Song. Now, I want to change things up a little bit. I want to tell a story, the story of how Old Dirty Bastard got on this track and how he worked on this track. Now, the recording of Fantasy, like we said, record label wasn't happy with it. Tommy Mottola, her husband at the time, not happy about it. But Mariah was like, I want to do this song specifically with my drunk uncle, Old Dirty Bastard. And true to form, they set up some record time, and Old Dirty Bastard showed up 3 hours late and apparently had been drinking all day.
Oh gosh, I was gonna ask if he was inebriated for real.
He was not sober.
Your instincts were right on this.
He showed up, and one of the first things he said was he needed Moet and Newports. And it was apparently, because he was 3 hours late, it's around midnight. I feel like in New York now you can find Moet and Newports at midnight, but maybe in 1995, that wasn't a thing. So they tell the interns, who I guess are all white, to go get him Moet and Newports. They're just like, we probably can't find that. He tells them that he said, y'all some white devils, y'all don't want black people to have. So the white devils went to go get Moet and Newports. They searched for an hour. They came back with Heineken's. He was irate. I gotta say, if I'm Old Dirty Bastard, I'm kind of team Old Dirty Bastard on that. Like, Heineken is not Newport, you guys. He apparently took the Newport. I mean, he took the Heinekens. We'll never find out if they found the Newports. He took the Heineken. He smashed it on the ground. He was like, all right, let's work. He records the famous line, me and Mariah go back like babies and pacifiers, which is just an amazing song, just an amazing lyric for any song, but he accomplished that line. Should we hear that line from the song?
Go for it.
All right, here we go.
Me and Mariah go back like babies with pacifiers.
And that was it. He recorded that line, and he's like, I need to sleep. He lays down and goes to sleep, apparently for a whole hour. Everybody's just sitting around waiting him for, to wake up and do some more. Old Dirty gets up. He records the next line. Old dirty dog, no liar. Keep your fantasy hot like fire. And then went back to sleep for another 45 minutes. At some point in the evening, he tells the engineer, he's like, hey, I hope you got your shit right because I ain't doing it twice. I have a theory about that. I have a theory he wasn't actually talking to the engineer. I think that was his next verse. Make sure you got your shit set right because I ain't doing it twice. It almost rhymes too much. I think he was
Should have kept that.
I think he was still
Great
rhyming.
line.
They should have put it in.
Some bars.
He goes to sleep again. This time, apparently, he kicked off one shoe and the whole studio smelled terrible. There was some other stuff that he might have done. I'm not going to go into it. You can find the story online. I don't want y'all to tune out. But, like, it's a mess. And by the way, the whole time, Tommy Mottola and Mariah are calling every hour on the hour asking, how's it going? Like, is it going well? Like, what are you recording? So it took them all night to record that one verse. And if you listen to it, you hear that his voice feels very punched in. Like, it's not like one continuous take. Like, there's a reason why. Like, even some lines like, I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll, I'm soul to soul. Like, if you listen to that part in particular, like, the lyrics are, like, lapped over each other. Not for effect, but just because they just didn't line up.
Just one idea at a time.
Yeah, it was just
That's
one
it.
idea at a
One
time.
and done.
But you know, when you write, me and Mariah go back like baby fast.
You take
like,
a nap.
Listen,
Take a nap.
Listen.
Long nap.
He might have known in his brain, you know what? This is good enough to be a part of hip hop history.
Yeah.
So he leaves the
earned
studio.
it.
They finally play the track for Mariah and Tommy Mottola, and the story doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. They loved it. From the first time they heard it, they knew they had a hit. So they said, hey, that was really good. Can you get Old Dirty Bastard to come back and add more cities? We like when he said New York is in the house. The engineers are like, no, I don't know if you know this, but like he's going to charge us the same amount, like $15,000, which is a lot of money back in 1995, but maybe not that much for a Mariah Carey song. But they're like, no, we need more cities. We need more towns. Like, we love that part. So he gets another $15,000 to come back. Shout out to Corey Summers, by the way, the guy who told this story, because he was there that night. He came back and he added more cities. That's when he adds Japan, because if it sounds like he's just he's just throwing out places, well, there's a reason for that, because he's just in the studio. And by the way, when he came back to record those other places, he was apparently like hungover and tired. So he didn't fall asleep a bunch of times, but you're working with an even more grumpy Old Dirty Bastard. So that to me is part of the genius of Old Dirty. Like, you hear about Hank Williams, when you hear about country, you hear about, they had to give Keith Richards a whole new set of blood because his blood was so tainted. Like, they had to these are stories told about other people, but I feel like we don't know all the stories about our friends in hip hop in the same way. And to me, this story is like, I don't know if I want to be there that night, but I'm happy that it happened. I'm happy that a man could be so free as to insult the interns, smash a bottle of beer on them, make people wait while he sleeps, subject them to smells, and then take all night to record one of the shortest verses, I think, on a feature that you're ever going to come across. But you know what? It worked for him. It worked for Old Dirty. I mean, like, I don't know. Is there a part of you as an artist who you seem like a very good individual, but is there a part of you that secretly likes to like would love to be just unhinged for once?
I am unhinged, but I'm not unhinged in a way, at least to my experience from myself, because I have to live with myself, but also the people around me, that are not yes men. Yeah. I can be unhinged with my transparency and my honesty. Yes. But it's never to like truly hurt somebody's feelings.
No.
Like, I'm a jokester. If I can find some areas where we can joke and throw a little read in there, like that's cute.
But you're not hurting anybody. This is all playful.
No, and I think that, listen, the people here at One Song, we do not promote bullies, so to speak. But every now and then, it's just something fun. I think I enjoy this. I think because, honestly, this is getting really real. I think because I am just generally such a polite person that the same way, like, British humor is always based on people being loud and saying things obnoxious that they would never say because they're also British. But I feel like sort of the same way, like it's fun for me to hear these stories about Old Dirty Bastard and Rick James just being unhinged, like not
Rick
caring
James,
at all. You know what I mean?
Rick James was a whole nother level of unhinged. And James Brown was another one, especially with how they fire people.
I mean, I love Old Dirty Bastard. I think he was one of the most innovative rappers of all time. We're talking today about Fantasy with Mariah Carey, but like we're talking about the same guy who did Got Your Money. You know what I'm saying? Shimmy, shimmy, ya. Shimmy, shimmy, ya. I mean, you know, nowadays we look at Old Dirty and we think, man, maybe we needed to be better friends. Maybe we needed to help this man. But what do you think about that? I mean, like, what do you think about Old Dirty's, you know, what made him great and, you know, what's his legacy in hip hop?
I think in my mind, his legacy just being a human being is how many different dynamics there are, these different nuances to how our brains process things, the psychology behind things that we've experienced and how we cope with it. I
think that's right. I think that's right.
Yeah, and also just not having access to, you know, therapy. During that time. This is not at a time where Black people are unpacking things. Let's unpack that.
That's so true.
You know, we didn't, you know, so
it's the role of, like, you know, where was hip hop on mental illness? Well, I think that we definitely weren't talking about it back then. You know what I mean? Like the idea of a therapist, you know, we were still a little bit of ways from that.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, and you know, again, I think to a certain extent, you know, I just love a good story. I mean, the idea that this guy was a fugitive, but he was still showing up at concerts. You know, when they dropped the W in 2000, he was already on the run he had like literally run out of rehab. Like he was at a rehab in Pasadena, California, and they said, we got to take you down to the court. And dude just said, I'm not doing that, and ran away. And like they said, well, we don't have, you know, this is not a rehab where we, you know, restrain anybody. Like he just literally ran away. And so for the next couple of months, he was showing up at concerts, showing up at record release albums. He doesn't get caught until he's in Philadelphia signing autographs at a McDonald's drive-thru. And they said that the crowd got so big with people coming up to get signatures from ODB that the cops didn't know who was over there causing a commotion. They just went over there because they were like, who are all these people hanging out at McDonald's drive-thru? When they figured out that he had bench warrants, that was when they took him back in. But I mean, like, to me, this is who Old Dirty Bastard was. Like,
just who he was.
And his cousin, the RZA, said, my cousin was a genius. He was like, Old Dirty Bastard was a genius. And to a certain extent, I feel that way. I feel like he was untethered by social norms. And I'm not, obviously, he did some things that, you know, are not excusable or funny. But, you know, just from an artistic point of view, there's a part of me that respects that sort of wild man that he was. You know what I mean? So where do we land after all this on Mariah Carey? Like, do we, you know, what do you as a performer, you know, take away from this artist and this time?
I think she's an artist to definitely study from the ways in which she has honed her skills.
Yeah.
And not only the singing, in the writing as well. So yeah, and also take a listen to Luther to see where those worlds meet, because there are also other ways in which artists, like I said, influence and inspire each other.
I love how you are, you know, not afraid to champion yourself. I actually truly appreciate that, because I think sometimes, you know, we want credit for being, like, you know, humble and not sort of putting our names to the conversation on stuff. But quite frankly, there is so much music. There's so much TV. There's so much culture out there that sometimes if you're not actively out pushing yourself, like, it's really easy to get lost in the mix.
Absolutely.
That being said, who are, you know, they don't have to be, they could be current, they could be in the past. Who are like the 3 artists that, you know, you feel, I'm not even going to say inspire you, but, you know, make you like, oh yeah, you know, like this is why I'm an artist. I want to make something that makes someone feel the way I feel when I listen to blank.
Okay, I can actually just give you my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, Rushmore.
And it's of ladies, gentlemen, and then we have the personality and the foundation of which those things sit on. So on the lady side, we have Badu, Phyllis Hyman, Lisa Fisher, and Sarah Vaughan. And of course, I got to give an honorable mention to Jill Scott and Layla Hathaway.
Beautiful.
Then over here on the gentleman side, we have B. Slade, formerly known as the gospel singer Tone. We have Rick James. We have Nate Dogg. And we have Luther.
Luther.
And then, of course, as an honorable mention over there, we have Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And we have Crash Cut. Levon Bennett. If you don't know who that is, just go ahead and look him up.
All right, that's a discovery.
Yes.
Looking forward.
It'll make sense.
Okay.
And then the personality side down here that those two things sit on, we have Little Richard, Bugs Bunny, Babs Bunny. We have Jim Carrey, specifically from Liar Liar, Ace Ventura, and The Mask. My parents took me to go see The Mask at the movie theater.
And
Who's Babs Bunny?
Babs Bunny. Okay, so that's from Tiny Toons.
Yeah.
And so you got Buster and Babs Bunny. Those are the grandchildren of just the new bunnies that are coming up. And Babs is me, and I am Babs.
Okay.
And then of course we step into this world. Ricky Smiley, Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
Arnez J, Monique,
Of course.
Stephen Wright, Bo Burnham, Jamie Foxx.
There you go.
Like I'm also inspired by comedians.
I was going to say you have almost as many, if not more, comedy icons, right?
Yeah.
Singers.
So I grew up on that. You know, so it's.
You know, it's funny. There's actually some overlap in your list because when I was talking to Neil Brennan, he said I knew Dave Chappelle was great because he seemed like Malcolm X and Bugs Bunny had a child. And I was like, yeah, I absolutely see that the whole way through. And I think, look, we talked about Mariah doing sort of pop R&B and then becoming, you know, one of the people who was merging it with hip hop. Where R&B goes next, none of us can say for sure, but I can say that this group of people here feel like you absolutely are part of that future. And we want to thank you for coming through today. So thank you so much, Durand.
Where can we find you on the internet? You got one of those.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Yeah. So you can find me on the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Twitters. Listen, your mama named you Twitter, and that's what I'm gonna call you. So
yeah, if you say X, nobody knows
what's the
what you're
handle?
talking
Yep, Durand Bernarr, DURANDBERNARR. And that's also my website as well. You can find merch. We also got socks. Make sure you get your little bit.
Hey,
socks.
we got come on,
Those are great
socks.
socks.
Got my face on it.
I always wear. I'm
might have to buy
wearing
some
socks with a face right now. That's
I
Michelle.
love tube
it's Michelle
socks.
Obama.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh,
Yes,
face socks.
indeed.
I will buy
buddies.
some face
Face
socks.
socks, brothers.
You must too. They're called the little bits, and we got mango butter too for all the dry-faced heifers. Want to make sure that you stay moisturized. We don't want you out here in these streets looking crazy.
I
So,
feel personally attacked.
Listen. But I'm also gonna
My
provide a
hands.
solution.
Okay.
I'm gonna state the problem, but in that same breath, we gonna provide the solution. That's what you're gonna learn about me. I'll tell a joke, but I never tell you a lie.
I got off a plane. Luxury, help me in this thing.
All right. Well, I'm producer, DJ, and songwriter LUXXURY. That's LUXXURY on the internet.
And I'm actor, writer, director, and sometimes old dirty DJ, Diallo Riddle. You can find me at Diallo, DIALLO on Instagram or Diallo Riddle on TikTok.
And this is one song. We will see you next time. Yay!
Baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on.
When you